What's up, my friends? Welcome to Good Human, a show on the Cheap Seats Network where we chat about wellness, lifestyle, navigating this crazy world, and just doing our best to be a good human. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the first official full-length episode of Good Human. I am re-recording this. I had some technical difficulties, and I am also now getting over a cold, so I promise I will not always sound this nasally. Also, if you're watching this on video, I'm working on some sort of setup. If I'm being honest right now, I'm sitting on a chair in my bedroom. I want this to be laid back and casual, like we're just chit-chatting, so I'm trying to come up with a setup that reflects that. That's a little less awkward than me like sitting at my desk like a news reporter. So TBD. With all of that out of the way, today we are talking about life post-college, or even just life in your early 20s. I'm 24 years old. Actually, I'm almost 24 and a half. My half birthday is in a couple days. Yes, I still say the half. I am 24 and a half years old. Anyways, I don't think anybody talks about the weirdness of this age, but it's definitely a shared experience from talking to other people that have gone through the early 20s or that are currently in this period of their life. It's a really weird time, and like I said, I don't know why nobody talks about it or like warns you when it's such a shared experience, but we're used to being in these organized groups for pretty much our entire life. You might go to daycare, and then you go to preschool, and then you're in the school system, and then you might go off to college, and you're forced to be in these situations where it's really easy to make friends, and it's really easy to feel connected to other people, and you have clear goals. I, throughout school, was, I guess what you could say, like a high performer. I always got good grades, and it's not to say that I'm really smart or that it comes naturally, because I don't think that's the case at all. I just really liked trying hard in school and then seeing the positive outcome from that. It was very clear cut, the feedback you would get when you're in school. Like, you study for a test, you take a test, you get a grade, and that grade reflects how well you did. For me, I was always trying to get good grades, so I was always having that positive feedback. I'd study, I'd take a test, I'd get a good grade, I'd feel good about myself. Nobody told me that once you get into the real world, you do not have that much feedback, just in general. I work a 9-to-5 in good old corporate America right now, and there isn't that continual feedback. I think it's a pretty common thing that if you're not getting feedback at your job, that means you're probably doing just fine. I think it's more likely that you're going to get feedback if you're doing poorly, and your manager needs to have a word with you. So when I entered the workforce and I was no longer getting that positive feedback, I was like, am I doing well? Am I, meeting their expectations? It's really challenged me to build confidence outside of these marks. I think it can be really hard to feel confident in yourself and your work coming out of the school system where you're getting clear marks, clear feedback, clear grades on how you're doing. And I've only been out of college for 2 years now, so I still don't feel as confident as I would like to. I just think it's important to know that you're not alone, and I hope more people start talking about it, and I definitely think our generation is talking about it a bit more. You are most likely doing a fine job. You got hired for your position at your company. They obviously see something in you. The older I get, the more I realize that I don't think anybody fully knows what they're doing. I thought for a really long time that once I got to a certain age, I would have things figured out in my personal life, in work. I just thought once you hit a certain age, you're like, yeah, I know what to do now. Nobody actually knows what to do. Nobody's actually taught how to be an adult. No one's taught how to go into the workforce. I don't know why we all have this idea we're all made to feel like you'll figure it out one day. You'll just wake up one day when you're 30 and you'll know it all, because I don't think that's the case. I remember talking to my mom. I was probably like a freshman or sophomore in college, and she was paying all of her bills, and I was like, how do you keep up with all this? Like, I can't imagine having all of these bills to stay on top of, making sure you're paying things on time. And she said, you just kind of do it. Like, it just becomes part of your life. And now being 24 years old and living in this house and paying bills and doing all the adult-like things that I used to not even be able to imagine getting a grip around and being able to handle, you just figure it out as you go. And I think that's the same for post-college life. You're not expected to know it all, and
there's never going to be an age that you're just going to have it all figured out. It kind of takes a big weight off your shoulders. Coming into adulthood, I think it's important to just know that you'll figure it out. If you look at everything from a super zoomed out point of view, it's extremely overwhelming. But then once you kind of zoom into things, it makes it more manageable. Matt, my boyfriend, always says, see a little, see a lot, see nothing. Which sort of means that if you see a little bit, if you just focus on what you can see, zoom in, it's a lot more manageable. And that goes with anything in life. Anything you're dealing with is very much more manageable when you're focused on small things that you can do. Versus if you see a lot, if you're zoomed the whole way out being like, there's literally no way I'm going to be able to figure all of this out and do all of this, it's going to feel very overwhelming. So that's sort of a little quote that we live by, and Matt likes to remind me because I'm a zoomed out kind of gal. I've always been a zoomed out kind of gal. So I'm working on zooming in and just taking little bites. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You gotta zoom in. I feel like I'm rambling now a little bit. There was a 9 to 5 topic that I did want to touch on. I don't know if it's just me seeing this on social media, but with the age of influencers that we have going on right now, also the age of like entrepreneurship, I feel like there's so many people starting their own businesses, which is fantastic. With that comes this like distaste for 9 to 5s. And don't get me wrong, there's negatives, surely. There's negatives and positives to everything in life. But I don't like the narrative that's going around nowadays where 9 to 5 suck, you shouldn't want to work a 9 to 5, there's more to life than a 9 to 5. I can resonate with some of those remarks and some of those statements, but like I said, there's good and bad to everything. Believe it or not, some people like their 9 to 5 jobs. Some people like having that stable pay, having a consistent schedule. I don't think it's fair to weaponize 9 to 5s the way that they are on social media. It also gives me big MLM vibes. Like, a huge premise behind MLMs is like, I get to do all of my boss babe work from home while you're out working at a desk in a dimly lit office. It's like, okay, some people really don't like their job. Some people really don't like working 9 to 5, and that sort of narrative feels very predatory to me. I don't think it's nice. There's probably a way better word than that, but I don't think it's nice to prey on people that don't like their current situation in life. And I think there's a really big difference between inspiring other people to follow their dreams, if that is outside of a 9 to 5 life, versus making people feel bad about it. And I feel as though maybe I'm taking it too personally, but sometimes it gets a little predatory and it gets a little bit shameful when it's like, oh, I'm so sorry for you. It's so pitiful that you have to work this 9 to 5. My company that I work for is really awesome. And although I have so many passions and interests and dreams outside of working a corporate job, there are so many good things to it, and especially if you're in a good company. And for me right now, this is what makes sense. And I don't think it's okay to shame other people for doing what makes sense for them. Everybody is so different. And I think with social media, we forget that it's okay to do your own thing and it's not necessary to fit into a box. I think there's so many different aesthetics in boxes that people put themselves in on social media. Life is way more complex than what we see on social media, and people are so much more complex than what you see on social media. And this is a whole other topic that I would love to get into, sort of feeling the need to fit into one aesthetic or one group of people that you see on social media, when everyone has a totally unique path. And if your path right now is working that 9 to 5 life, then go get that bread, girl. And if your path right now is not working a 9 to 5, then that is amazing too. But let's all just take a breather and let people do what they want and let people live the lives that they want and have the jobs that they want, or rather need at this point in their life. So that's my little take on 9 to 5. I think it gets really demonized on social media when in reality, some people really enjoy working a 9 to 5. And even if you don't love working a 9 to 5 and that's what you're doing right now, you can incorporate your passions into your life. Your 9 to 5 job is not who you are. the work you do is not who you are. Like I said, we are such complex beings. There's so much to explore outside of your work. To be honest, I never envisioned myself working a 9-to-5, and I found it very hard to balance the things that I was interested in outside of my job when I first started working. I almost expected to have a little bit of relief. I was so busy in college, like I can't even wrap my head around how much I did, as most college students are doing. They're taking a full load of courses, they're working, they're in clubs, you might be in Greek life. Like there's so much that you do in college that I thought once I started this 9-to-5 life, how many times can I say that in this episode? But I thought I would have more time on my hands. It's just different. When you're in college, you're super, super busy, but you have more pockets throughout your day. You have more little breaks to do those things that you love. But when you're working a corporate job, the schedules can be very strict. And I'm really lucky that the company that I work for is pretty flexible, but I'm still working 40 hours a week and it still takes up the majority of my day. And so you have to really reframe that in your mind, because it is extremely easy to get caught up in that and not have time for any of the things that you love. It's sad, and I think it happens to a lot of people. You get caught up in the corporate cog, you wake up at the last second, you go to work, you come home and you're too tired to do anything else, and then when the weekend rolls around, you're busy catching up on all the stuff throughout your house because you were too tired after work to do all those things during the week. Super, super easy to fall victim to that, and I actually had a better routine in combining work and my passions when I was at the office. Surprisingly, I'm working from home right now. We've been home for over a year now, and I really struggled to keep my routine going. There's something about being home that makes me tired. I love coming home and sitting on the couch after a long day. That's like the best feeling. And so I kind of got sucked into just being in that state all the time working from home. So this is actually something that I'm still working on, getting back into routines, but routines are what I think are most important to balance all of your passions and your job. It'll be so different from person to person. I know some people have really long commutes. Other people work from home like me. I just stand up and walk across the hall to my office. When I was working in the office, before work was my me time. I love a morning routine. I think having that before work me time is so important, and that's something that I don't do right now. I'm gonna expose myself. Most days I wake up at the last second and get right to work, and it has negatively impacted my mental health a ton. So I am actively working on getting back into having that me time, but that is a huge one. The before work me time doesn't have to be anything crazy either. Even if you just wake up an hour before you have to leave for work, or log on to your laptop if you're working from home, fill that with something that you love. I think starting the day with something that you love can really impact your attitude towards the rest of your day, and then also having something to look forward to when you get home. It is so easy, for me at least, to get off work and then just sit on the couch. Like I said, that's my favorite feeling in the whole world, but it's really important to carve out that time for the things that you love. I feel like it's weird because you know that it'll make you feel good. Like, if you carve out time after work to do those things that you're really passionate about, you'll feel great. But somehow you're still like, I'd rather just sit on the couch and scroll through TikTok for the next 4 hours and then go to bed. Doesn't make any sense. And like I said, not having a morning routine and then just going and doing that after work every day has really negatively impacted my mental health. It takes time and it might ebb and flow. I used to be killing it in that department, balancing the passion projects and the 9-to-5 life. I think that's another important part of this topic, is realizing that things are going to change a lot. This period in your life is like a huge period of change, and it's okay if you can't do all the things that you used to do, or you're feeling like you're a different person, because you really are entering a completely new phase of your life. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this, we're so used to being in these organized groups of people in structures that are very clear-cut and a path that is very clear-cut, and then you're sort of spit out into the real world and you might not have that clear path anymore, and it's frightening and it's frustrating. But I think you really can embrace the change and just be open to life being different and figuring out what that looks like for you. And as I said, everybody is so incredibly different, and it is going to look so incredibly different for everyone. So you really got to play around and do a little self-exploration, figuring out who you are, what you want your life to look like, what this new path is. Because for a lot of people, once you graduate college, it kind of opens up all of these doors. If you're on a very clear path in school to, let's say, become a doctor, that might be a little bit more clear cut. But for a lot of people, we don't end up using our exact degrees when we get out of college. We might not end up in the field that we thought we would. We might not end up in the position that we thought we would be in, which kind of falls back into the, you got to be open to change and just let things happen and take on new opportunities. I think another reason why this age is so weird and so hard is you're forced to kind of pick the trajectory of your life at a very young age. At least in most American school systems, you graduate high school when you're 18 years old, and then you're supposed to pick the topic, the major that you want to have in college for something you're going to do for the rest of your life. At 18 years old, are you kidding me? I am a completely different person right now than I was at 18 years old. How was I supposed to know what I wanted to do for the rest of my life? And I think that's even true once you get into college. You are still finding yourself throughout that 18 to 21, 22 range, like really, really finding yourself. I think those are crucial years in finding yourself. But you're expected to be in these classes and on this path that's going to lead you to that thing that you decided that you wanted to do when you were 18. It seems so weird, and it makes you feel a little guilty then when you're 25 and you don't know what you want to do. But I've talked to people at my job that are in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s that jokingly say, yeah, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And the amount of people that I've heard say that at my job has actually been really comforting. You're expected to figure out who you are and what you want to do with your life at such a young age that I think it kind of sets us up to be let down. So again, I think it's just really important to face these times in your life with a really open mind, and you might completely change what you want to do with your life. You might completely change who you are as a person, and that is 1,000% okay. You are never too old to reinvent yourself. You are never too old to dig a little bit deeper into who you are. You are never too old to change your career path. And I would love it if we could sort of reinvent what being in your 20s is. I'm sure every age group could relate to this, but I only know being in my 20s, so I'm going to speak to that. I don't think we need to have it all figured out right now. I don't think you need to have your whole life plan. I don't think you need to know when you want to get married, if you want to get married, when you want to have kids. Like, just take a deep breath. There is seriously something in my eye, so I think we're going to wrap this up. What I was saying, though, is I think that the school system and sort of just the culture that we're brought up in leads us to believe that once you're out of school and you're in those early 20 years that you're supposed to now have it all figured out, know exactly what you want to do, and, you know, life is full speed ahead and you're getting older and older by the second, and I just don't subscribe to that belief, all right? I am so young. We are all so young. You're as young as you want to feel like you are, and especially in your 20s or even in your 30s, there's so much time. You've so much time to figure things out. Let some of that weight come off of your shoulders. Know that we are literally all in the same boat. We're all feeling the same way. I love analogies and I love imagery, so I just imagine all of us sitting in this boat together, but we're blindfolded and like ear plugged up. It makes you feel like you're alone in the boat. You're like, how am I supposed to navigate this? Like, I can't steer this boat when I got my eyes blindfolded and plugs in my ears. But in reality, you're with a bunch of other people. Like, everybody else is right there with you. And so let's take off the blindfolds and undo the earplugs and realize that we're all in the same boat, and we can really help each other through this time if we open up about it and talk about it. Because I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and I don't have the answers, and neither do you probably. So we all sort of like put our hand in and band together. I think it would make it a lot easier to get through this time in your life. So just know you're not alone, and it can be really hard and really confusing, but you're doing amazing. I promise you. I did want to end this with 2 questions that I got on my Instagram. I asked you guys topics you would like me to talk about, and there were a couple questions that I thought were really relevant to this whole topic. So let me grab my phone. First question is, how to build confidence at your job when you're surrounded by a lot of people with a lot of experience. And the piece of advice that I will give, am I qualified to be giving this advice? Probably not. I have a mentor, a leader at my job who I really admire, and she always says that it is okay to make mistakes. It's probably encouraged to make a mistake here or there because that means you're trying, and mistakes are how you learn. The issue only comes when you continue to make those mistakes. Then that's like, maybe we should check in on this, but it's okay to mess up because that means you're trying. You have to try to get better. And that's something that I struggle with. I've always been a really cautious person, and I don't like to do things unless I'm fully confident that I can do it. But boy, has that been challenged at work because you gotta just dive in sometimes. You have to try new things. And like I said, if you make a mistake, then you're learning. And I also think it's really important to ask a lot of questions. That is another key way that you're going to learn. And if you are surrounded by these people that have a lot more experience than you, lean into that. Ask them questions. Be curious. Be willing to learn. I think there's also comfort in knowing that everybody that is surrounding you that seems to know it all once started in your shoes. Nobody started out knowing it all. So if those people are so experienced and they're really killing it at their job, that means there's potential for you to do that as well because they started exactly where you are. The other question that I got is how to find friends after college. Well, if you figure it out, let me know. That's actually something that I have been struggling with lately, and I don't understand how you do that. Again, I think it's really hard once you come out of these systems that you're always surrounded by other people and it's really easy to make friends. It's really easy to find common ground with people. And then you're thrown out into the real world where it's like, hi, hello, I feel really alone. Is anybody else out there? It's even harder when you're not a really outgoing person or not an extroverted person, I should say. I personally, although I would probably describe myself as outgoing, I don't prefer to talk to people. I'm very introverted. I don't like going places, which has made it very hard to make friends. And I think everybody is feeling that now with the pandemic. Even if you are super outgoing and extroverted and you love to be out and about, you haven't been able to in the last year. And that makes it really hard to make and even maintain friendships. So I don't know that I have an answer on how to make friends. I think it's nice though to know that everybody kind of feels that way. And I think other people are really in search for friendships as well. So being open to that, being open to meeting new people, being aware that everybody else maybe kind of feels that way might make it a little bit easier to try to form those friendships. I think social media is a great place to start. It takes the pressure off a little bit. You can maybe get to know people virtually first before you dive into IRL friendships. Joining groups online of people that have similar interests or joining groups of people in real life that have similar interests as you. I think going to fitness classes are a really great way to meet new people. There's a million things that you can go out and do in person that are related to your hobby. There's sort of like real life clubs. I put air quotes around that. Like when you were in school, you would join these clubs of people that had similar interests. You were all interested in the topic of what the club was. You can find that in real life. There's Facebook groups of people that have similar interests. I'm in a plant Facebook group. All of the people that you were in those clubs with that had similar interests as you, there are people like that everywhere out in the real world. Like they didn't disappear after college. So there are people out there that have all these similar interests as you do. You just gotta find them. And it's a lot harder as an adult. And like I said, I'm still very much struggling with that. So if you want to be my friend, hit me up. No, but I think the core theme here as I'm wrapping this up is know that you are not alone. Lots of other people are feeling the same sort of things that you're feeling, and with my little boat analogy earlier, if we all just lean on each other, which I think is applicable to pretty much everything in life, but if we all are able to lean on each other, it makes things a lot easier. It takes the burden off of you as an individual. It makes you feel less alone when you know that other people are feeling the same way that you are. And that's kind of what I hope to bring you through this podcast, through these video episodes. Solace knowing that we're all kind of dealing with the same things. Like I say in the introduction to this, we are all just trying to navigate life to the best of our abilities, And you would be so surprised to know how many people feel the same exact things that you are feeling right now, and you are never alone, and you always have a friend in me, maybe just virtually, maybe in real life. Either way, I am always here. I'm so excited to continue these episodes and maybe just bring a smile to your face, or make you remember that you're not alone, or maybe spark a little bit of inspiration within you. So with that, I'm gonna go get whatever is in my eye out of my eye. And thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know on Instagram any other topics you would like me to discuss. If you have any questions, I kind of like this format of doing a question or two at the end. Can't promise you that I have any sort of wonderfully inspirational answer to the questions, but I do like hearing from you guys. So hop over to my Instagram. It's Abby_Wellner, and leave me a little message, leave me a comment of anything that you would like to see in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether you were listening or watching on my YouTube channel, and I will see you next time. See ya!